Mr. Öcalan's message is extremely important. It represents a fundamental change and step forward. Obviously, the conditions that he's been held in for 26 years are absolutely appalling. The aggravated isolation, he's had no access to family, to lawyers, to friends, to anybody. But what we do see is very clearly that Abdullah Öcalan has absolutely still got his moral and political authority to lead a peace process and to move the situation forward. The declaration demonstrates Abdullah Öcalan's political authority still, and the response of the PKK to hold a congress and then to endorse the call and take the decision to disband and enter a political process is a massive change and massive step forward. It's really opening the door and opening the path to a new peace process. Now, in order for that to develop in the way that it needs to, Abdullah Öcalan needs to have the freedom to be able to act politically and be able to take the steps, have the discussions, have the negotiations in order to push that forward. The Kurdish side have taken enormous steps. What is absolutely essential now is that the Turkish state responds properly and welcomes the initiative and also takes very concrete steps in order to allow Mr. Öcalan to be able to play the role that only he can play in bringing about a proper, peaceful and negotiated solution. What's disappointing at the moment is that despite those enormous steps from Mr. Öcalan and the PKK, it still appears that the Turkish state is very, very slow, and there have been only very minor improvements in the conditions that Öcalan is held in, and that's not acceptable, and it's not going to help move this process forward. Well, the UK is obviously a very important and very influential player in the whole picture. There are extremely deep relationships between the British state and the Turkish state. And obviously in the wider region, the UK has always had a very big and prominent role. What we need the UK government to do is to exert much more pressure on the Turkish state and the Turkish government to enter a meaningful process and to throw its full weight behind that process. In terms of the wider region, the UK is obviously got a huge historical responsibility. It's the UK state that is in part responsible for the appalling situation that we currently have in the wider Middle East. What we need is for the UK government, rather than just acting belligerently on one side, i.e. particularly the Israeli state in the wider picture, we need the UK government to engage properly and try and bring all parties to the table and to bring about negotiated and peaceful solutions everywhere. Now, that won't be achieved by just giving blank checks and blank support to states that are clearly provoking the situation and making the conflicts worse. There's been lots of welcoming of the PKK's disbandment and lots of welcoming of Mr. Öcalan's declarations. But what's really lacking is that the European Union doesn't seem to be exerting the pressure that is needed in order to see the Turkish state and the Turkish side of this equation reciprocate the good offers and the good moves that have been made by the Kurdish population and political forces. I think they really do need to step up the pressure. It's all very well saying we welcome this initiative, but this initiative will be meaningless if the Turkish state does not follow through and also take concrete steps towards peace. So as a very minimum, what the European Union and the wider international community need to do is to say, obviously, yes, they welcome the statement and the steps that have been taken, but there needs to be much more action from the Turkish state and government so that we don't lose this historical moment that exists right now. That would be catastrophic if the moment is not seized and we don't really move together down the road of peace. What we need is for the Turkish state to follow through, to free Mr. Öcalan, to provide him with the resources and access so that he can speak to the people he needs to speak to, can do the work in terms of coming up with more concrete proposals about the real implementation of a new, peace process. And I think that's been sadly missing. Obviously, we 100% support the campaign. Many of us have been trying for a long time now to end the inhumane isolation and the aggravated conditions in which Mr. Öcalan has been held and kept. So all initiatives and people saying we want to be able to meet with Mr. Öcalan and discuss with him are to be welcome. And then we would urge the Turkish state to begin to accept some of those applications for people to be able to visit Mr. Öcalan. It will certainly build confidence. It will broaden the number of people that he's able to speak to and engage with. And we would certainly encourage everybody to carry on asking and pushing for access in order to end the isolation that has been in place for many years and has only been partially lifted. What we need is to completely end the limitations on access to Mr. Öcalan.